They say the cracks in a relationship don't appear overnight. They whisper at first. Back then, I didn't hear the whispers. I was too busy believing everything was fine. Emily and I had been married for 7 years. 10 years together in total. We were the kind of couple people envied. At least that's what I thought. Sunday mornings were our ritual. Pancakes, coffee, music low in the background, her laughter filling the kitchen. It felt like home in its truest form. But lately, the laughter had started to fade. Not all at once, but slowly, like the sound of a radio losing signal. It began with small things. Messages left on read, dinner plans she forgot, moments of silence that stretched too long to be comfortable. Emily said work had been overwhelming. She was in marketing, and her company had taken on new clients. Late meetings, endless reports, she'd sigh, kicking off her heels by the door. I wanted to believe her. I did. Still, something in her tone didn't sit right. She had started wearing perfume again, the one she hadn't touched in years. Her phone, once left carelessly on the table, was now always face down. Whenever I walked into the room, she seemed to lock it with a little too much urgency. I told myself not to overthink it. We all go through phases, right? People change. Life gets busy. Stress takes over. But every time she came home late and mumbled an excuse, a small part of me cracked. One evening, she came home past midnight. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV. She smiled faintly, kissed my cheek, and said, "Sorry, babe. Client dinner ran long." Her lipstick was smudged. Her perfume lingered in the air longer than usual. I remember smiling back, though my chest felt heavy. I wanted to ask questions, but the words died in my throat. Something told me I didn't want to hear the answers. That night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling in the dark. For the first time in 7 years, our home didn't feel warm. It felt unfamiliar, and deep down, I knew something was changing. Something I wasn't ready to face. It's strange how you can live beside someone every day and still feel them slipping away inch by inch. Emily's late nights started to become routine, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Meetings, team dinners, client drinks. The words all blurred together until they sounded like excuses rehearsed too many times. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was being insecure, paranoid even, but paranoia doesn't explain why your wife suddenly spends more time getting ready for work than she ever did for dates with you. She began wearing new clothes, sleek, stylish, a little too polished for her usual casual charm. A new lipstick shade, too. When I noticed, I smiled and teased, "You're looking sharp lately. Someone at work keeping you motivated." She laughed. A quick, sharp sound. "You're ridiculous, Ryan. Can a woman take care of herself without being interrogated?" The laughter was supposed to sound playful, but something about it stung. It wasn't the warm laugh I used to know. It carried something else. Distance, maybe even mockery. Still, I apologized like I always did. "You're right. I'm overthinking again." But her eyes didn't soften like before. They just drifted back to her phone. Nights turned quieter. She'd come home after midnight, toss her purse on the counter, and collapse onto the couch, scrolling endlessly through messages she didn't want me to see. I'd ask about her day, and she'd answer with vague, hollow words, same old, same old. I started waiting up for her, hoping she'd notice, maybe even feel guilty, but she never did. Once, I heard her car pull into the driveway around 1:30 a.m. I stayed still, pretending to sleep. When she slipped into bed, she smelled faintly of cologne, not mine. My heart clenched, but I said nothing, because silence felt safer than hearing another lie. By now, our conversations had become polite exchanges between strangers sharing a house. The woman who once couldn't go a day without telling me about her world now seemed to be living in a different one entirely. And I wasn't part of it. And every night, as she turned away from me in bed, I felt that world drifting further out of reach. It was a Tuesday night when the first real crack appeared, the kind you can't patch over with excuses. Emily had said she'd be home by 10. At midnight, there was still no sign of her. The house was too quiet, The kind of silence that hums in your ears until it starts to feel alive. I called her once. No answer. Twice. Straight to voicemail. At 2:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. Sorry, late meeting ran over. Heading home now. Just one line. No apology. No warmth. When she walked in almost an hour later, her smile looked forced. Her eyes were glassy, like she'd rehearsed them to look tired. I caught a faint scent of men's cologne when she passed me, not the one I wore. Something sharper, unfamiliar. Rough night? I asked quietly. She met my eyes. Yeah, you know how clients can be. Then she laughed. That laugh again, light and dismissive. You really need to stop waiting up like this, Ryan. You're starting to sound like a jealous boyfriend. It was supposed to sound teasing, but it felt like a slap. Jealous boyfriend? I was her husband. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my chest tight, with a feeling I didn't want to name. My instincts whispered that something wasn't right, that I was being played for a fool, but my heart refused to believe it. Over the next few days, her behavior became more secretive. She'd step outside to take calls, her voice dropping to a soft murmur. Her phone, once left on the nightstand, was now always glued to her side. Notifications appeared, and she'd tilt the screen away before I could glance at it. I started noticing other things, too. New clothes receipts, a hotel key card tucked between papers in her purse, her sudden interest in going to gym after work when she'd never cared for it before. I tried to talk to her once more, carefully. Is everything okay between us? I asked one evening as she sat scrolling on her phone. She looked up, half smiling. Of course. You're overthinking again. Honestly, Ryan, you worry too much. Then she laughed. Soft at first, then louder, as if the idea of me suspecting her was absurd. But that laughter didn't sound like my wife anymore. It sounded like a stranger who had already decided I didn't deserve the truth. And deep inside, I knew I wasn't paranoid. I was being prepared for heartbreak. Friday nights used to be sacred for us. Pizza, a movie, her head resting on my shoulder, small, ordinary things that made the world feel right. But that Friday, everything shifted. Emily stood by the door, adjusting her earrings, perfume heavy in the air. She looked stunning, deliberate, careful, glowing in a way that didn't feel like it was meant for me. Client dinner again? I asked, keeping my tone light. She smiled, too quickly. Yeah, big one tonight. Don't wait up, okay? Who's the client? She hesitated. Barely a second, but I caught it. Thompson Group. You don't know them. I nodded, forcing a smile. Right, Thompson Group. Inside, something in me was unraveling. After she left, I sat in silence, staring at the door she just walked through. The house felt like an empty shell, quiet, lifeless. Then, for the first time, a thought crossed my mind that made my stomach twist. Check the location app. We'd installed it years ago for safety during road trips. It wasn't spying, it was routine. But as I opened the app, guilt washed over me. What if I was wrong? What if she was really working? Her little blue blinked to life on the map. Not at her office. Not anywhere near it. She was across town, in a part of the city filled with bars and rooftop lounges. My breath caught. My heart began to race, each beat loud enough to drown out reason. I stared at the screen for a full minute, hoping it would move, hoping she'd drive toward the office or home, anywhere else. She didn't. I grabbed my keys. The drive was a blur, rain-slick roads, traffic lights blending into streaks of red and gold. When I pulled up near the location, I parked half a block away and sat in the car, palms sweating. The place was a rooftop restaurant, softly lit, romantic, the kind of place where people go when they want to be seen together. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. Then she appeared. Emily walked out, laughing, that same laugh that used to warm me, now hollow and sharp. And beside her was a man, tall, confident, hand resting on the small of her back like it belonged there. She leaned into him, eyes shining. Then she kissed him. It wasn't quick or hesitant. It was familiar, practiced. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. I didn't confront them. I didn't shout. I just watched every piece of me breaking in slow motion. I raised my phone, hands trembling, and took a photo, not out of anger, out of disbelief. Proof for myself that I wasn't crazy. Then I left. No confrontation. No tears. Just the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in the dark car. And as I drove home alone that night, the truth sat beside me, silent and heavy. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who laughed when I asked for honesty. Morning sunlight poured through the kitchen window, soft and golden, too gentle for the storm that was about to break. Emily was already up, humming quietly as she made coffee, as if the night before hadn't existed, as if she hadn't kissed another man under city lights while I sat in my car, watching everything I believed in crumble. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, the photo open on the screen. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was steady calm, too calm, that kind of calm that only comes when you've already lost everything. When she noticed me, she smiled. "Morning. You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I said flatly. She poured a cup and slid it toward me, pretending nothing was wrong. "You worry too much, Ryan. You should learn to relax a little." I stared at her, really stared. The woman in front of me looked like my wife, but she wasn't. She was wearing the same face, the same voice, but the soul I knew was gone. "How was your client dinner?" I asked. She froze for a fraction of a second before replying. "It went fine. Long, though. I told you not to wait up." I turned the phone around and placed it on the table. The image stared back at her, her lips pressed against another man's. Her breath caught. The color drained from her face. "Ryan, Don't," I interrupted quietly. "Don't lie again." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound between us. Finally, she whispered, "It's not what it looks like." I laughed bitterly. "Really?" "Because it looks exactly like what it is." Her voice cracked. "It was a mistake. I was lonely. You've been so distant lately, and Lonely?" I cut in, my voice shaking now. "I was sitting here every night waiting for you to come home. You laughed when I asked questions. You made me feel like I was crazy." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, Ryan, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I stood up slowly. "You meant every step of it, Emily. Every lie, every laugh. You just didn't mean to get caught." She reached for me, but I stepped back. For the first time, she looked afraid, not of me, but the silence that had replaced my love. That silence spoke louder than any anger ever could. She stood there, trembling, tears streaming down her face. I'd seen Emily cry before, during movies, during fights, even during laughter, but never like this. This was raw, desperate, the sound of someone watching their carefully built world collapse. "Please, Ryan," she whispered, voice breaking. "We can fix this. I'll lend it. I'll do whatever it takes." I wanted to believe her. God, a part of me still wanted to. But standing there, looking at her, the same woman who once promised forever, all I could see were the nights she chose someone else over me. I shook my head. "You can't fix something you destroyed on purpose." She tried to grab my hand, but I stepped back. My chest ached with every word I had to say. "Do you even understand what you did? You didn't just cheat, Emily. You made me doubt myself. You made me think I was losing my mind." She sobbed harder, pressing her palms to her face. "It didn't mean anything, I swear. It was just—" "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't call it nothing, because it was everything to me." The silence that followed was suffocating. Only the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the space where love used to live. I walked past her to the bedroom and pulled a small duffel bag from the closet. She followed me, voice trembling. "Where are you going?" "I don't know yet," I said, "but I can't stay here." "Please," she begged, "don't walk away like this. We've built a life together." I stopped at the doorway, my back to her. That life ended the moment you decided I wasn't enough. When I turned, I saw her sink to the floor, her body shaking with sobs. For a moment, my heart twisted, the instinct to comfort her still alive, buried under all the hurt. But I didn't move. Not this time. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter. It looked small, meaningless now, just a circle of metal pretending to symbolize forever. As I stepped outside, the evening air hit me, cool, quiet, and strangely freeing. I stood there for a long moment, breathing, letting the weight of everything fall from my shoulders. Behind me, through the window, I could still see her, crumpled on the floor, clutching at the empty space I'd left behind. For the first time in months, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hate. I just felt done. And in that stillness, I realized walking away wasn't losing. It was surviving. It's been 6 months since that night. 6 months since I walked out of a house that used to be my whole world. At first, the silence was unbearable. I'd wake up reaching for her, only to find cold sheets and emptiness staring back. The apartment I moved into felt hollow, like a waiting room for a life I hadn't figured out yet. But slowly, the quiet started to feel like peace. I began rebuilding not my marriage, but myself. Morning runs replaced sleepless nights. I reconnected with old friends, visited my parents more often, even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. It was strange, rediscovering who I was before her. Strange, but liberating. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about Emily, not with anger, but with a dull, distant ache, the kind that comes when you think of something you've already accepted as gone. I wondered if she ever looked back, if she ever regretted the moment she laughed instead of listening. Then one evening, she texted me, "I think about you every day. I miss us." For a long time, I stared at the message, waiting for something, anger, sadness, longing, but all I felt was calm. I typed nothing. I simply deleted the message and set the phone down. The next morning, I made coffee and stepped onto my balcony. The sky was pale gold, the city waking beneath it. For the first time in a long time, I smiled, not because I'd moved on to someone new, but because I'd finally moved back to myself. She laughed when I questioned her late nights. But she's not laughing now. And neither am I, because I no longer need to. 6 months have passed since that night. The night everything finally broke, and I walked out with nothing but a bag, a heart that barely felt alive. At first, the silence was unbearable, the kind that hums in the corners of your mind and makes every second stretch. I'd wake up reaching for a presence that wasn't there, expecting the soft rhythm of her breathing beside me. Instead, there was just emptiness, a void where love used to live. But time has a way of softening even the sharpest edges. Slowly, the silence stopped hurting. It started to heal. I learned to live alone again, to cook for one, to sleep without waiting for footsteps at the door. I went back to old hobbies I'd forgotten. Sketching, running, listening to music that wasn't background noise or laughter. I started to recognize myself again, not as half of something broken, but as whole in my own right. Sometimes I think of her, not with hate. Those feelings burned out long ago, but with quiet understanding. People make choices, and they live with them. She made hers, and I made mine. Last week, I got a text from her. "I miss you. I think about you every day." For a moment, I stared at it, expecting a spark of something. Anger, longing, regret. But there was nothing. Just calm. I deleted it without replying. This morning, I stood by my window, coffee in hand, watching the city wake beneath a pale sunrise. The air felt lighter. My heart did too. She laughed when I questioned her late nights. But she's not laughing now. And neither am I, because peace doesn't need laughter. It just needs letting go.